living world. Can you recall what is the difference between living and non living things? So, if you think that the basic difference between living and non living thing is that we respire, we have some activities doing on, our heart is pumping, and non living things they do nothing, isn't it? Second question, enlist the characters of living organisms. So, living organisms they grow, they move, they reproduce, isn't it? Yes. And they have their metabolic activities going on in the body. Third question, whether all organisms are similar, justify your answer. No, all organisms are not similar because even though we are of the same species, Homo sapiens sapien, we look different, isn't it? Even the species of many genus are different, isn't it? Yes. So now let us start this lesson. Planet Earth is made up of abiotic and biotic components. So now can anybody tell me that what is abiotic and biotic components? You have studied in the earlier class. Abiotic components are like water, soil, air, isn't it? Stones, these are abiotic components. And what are biotic components? Biotic components are such as tree, organisms, man, monkey, dog, fish, birds, etc. The biotic components are obviously living beings present around us. So the question is, why do we call them living and how do they differ from non living? So, basic principles of life. What is life? Life is nothing but living. So, in point A, it is written that the living being once produced a born has to survive. For survival, it needs energy and many chemical molecules. For energy, it has to perform metabolism. Metabolism is breaking of molecules, that is catabolism, and making of new molecules, that is anabolism. So, living beings are once produced, born, has to survive. That means survival is the main character or principle. And for survival, what do we need? We need energy and many chemical molecules we need, isn't it? Yeah. For energy, it has to perform metabolism. So, if I instantly drink something, will I get energy? No. Unless and until it have been in a process of metabolism, the energy is not converted into ATP or calories. So, metabolism is breaking of molecules, that is catabolism, and making of new molecules, that is anabolism. Point B. From birth onwards, organisms show tendency of growth and development. This growth is well orchestrated process. You might have observed sand molds, bounders grow, etc. This growth is not from within and hence these are not living beings. So here it is written that from the birth onwards, organisms grow, the tendency of growth and development. Now, for in case a baby is born, then slowly you can see him crawling, then walking, and his height or her height is increasing day by day. Then, at some extent, the growth is stopped, isn't it? But the other factors are being growing. So, this growth is well orchestrated process. You might have observed sand mounds. Now, sand mounds means what? When in the desert region, you can see that the deserts are made up of sand and boulders grow. So, these boulders are by the putting the sand over it, like the air comes and it is blown, and the sand is put over the put over it, and it increases its size or the growth is seen. But this growth is not from within, and hence they are not living beings. So this is also important. Now see, growth and development are not the process which have unlimited time span. At certain point of time, the molecules, organs, system becomes to lose their effective working and become old. This is aging process of the body. So growth and development are not the process which have unlimited time. So now after a certain age we can't see it is growing. So the lifespan or time span is limited. Okay, so the molecules, its organ systems is being loose their effective working. So you can see that old people get wrinkles because the skin cells are not so much produced. Okay, even the calcium depositions, you can see that the old people bend a lot. Okay, because the calcium deposition is not so well as our body utilizes it. Okay, so this aging process of the body. So if there is a birth of a living being, then it goes into growth and it the aging process occurs. Now D, life has to be life has to continue. Hence, organisms try to produce a young one like itself. So now you can see that a dog gave birth to a dog, a monkey gives birth to a monkey, a human being to a human being, isn't it? Why it is so? Because the continuity of life should be going on. So there are two methods in it, that is sexual and asexual. This ensure continuity of race. Mules, sterile bees do not reproduce, yet they are living. Can we call reproduction as inclusive characteristics of life? No, because worker bees you can see and mules, they are sterile. Okay. Now, next is E. As the body loses its capacity to perform metabolism, the organism dies. So, when the body is not in the capacity to perform anything, the organism dies. So, death is the main thing, that something which is in life have to be die after some days or some months or some years. Okay, lifespan is different for different organisms. Next is F. Any living being respond to thermal chemical or biological change in the surrounding. This is unique property of living beings, that is response to stimuli. Okay, when even see when we touch to a hot cup, we take our hands immediately outside. Even in plants, you can see that if it is not kept in the sunlight for many days, it starts showing it's dead, or it starts showing that there is no photosynthesis. It cannot produce food, so it shows aging. Okay, and this is the main thing, that this is a unique property of living beings, that it responds to chemical and biological changes in the surrounding. So there is an immense diversity in living organisms, since the immemorial variety of the of organisms are living together on earth. So we can see that there is a lot of diversity seen in the living organisms which are present in this earth. In order to understand the interrelations between living and non-living, as well as between two living beings of groups, systematic study of these is essential, isn't it? So we can't observe, or don't have so much time to observe each and every organism, because there are millions of organisms. Okay, and every individual we cannot check, or every organisms we cannot means put the characters. So what we do in systematic study. Okay, this data is also important for various industries and agriculture. Okay, so whatever the systematic study is there, this data is also in very important for industries and agriculture, such as which crops are nice to produce. Okay, intensive laboratory and field studies in order to identify and classify the organisms from strong basis of meaningful uses used to the collected data. So some organisms are needed to classify in order to fix them into the collected data. If we need to study these diversity, certain aids called taxonomical aids can be used. So if we want to this study of diversity, certain aids are called as taxonomical aids. What is taxonomy? Taxonomy is nothing but how an organism is kept in the hierarchy. Okay. These include herbaria, botanical gardens, museum, biodiversity parks, etc. So, in the next lecture, we will see about the herbarium. Okay.